On the bridge of the massive warship Stellar Guardian, Admiral Daz's weathered face reflected the harsh red glow of the holographic display. His usually steady hands gripped the armrests of his command chair until his knuckles turned white. The scene playing out before him was one he had witnessed far too many times in the past 2 years. Another world falling to the Krivik swarm. The bridge crew worked in tense silence, broken only by the soft beeping of consoles and whispered reports. Through the massive view screen, the blackness of space was dotted with thousands of red lights, Krivik ships surrounding Colony Beta 7. The colony's once proud orbital defense platforms now drifted as lifeless hulks, torn apart by the relentless insectoid attackers. Status report. Admiral Dai ordered, his voice carrying the weight of too many losses. Lieutenant Han looked up from her console, her face pale. Sir, the Kriviks have broken through the last defensive line. They've landed on the surface. She paused, swallowing hard. We're detecting their signature bioconvergent process beginning in the major population centers. The Admiral closed his eyes, his mind automatically calculating the death toll. 10 million colonists. Men, women, children, all about to be processed into food and resources for the endless Krivik swarm. The same fate that had befallen 17 other worlds since these monsters had emerged from unknown space. Show me the ground feeds, he commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing multiple views from the colony surface. The Kriviks moved like a living tide. 6-limbed insectoid creatures the size of large dogs, their chitinous armor gleaming dully in the colony's artificial lighting. Where they passed, nothing remained. Buildings, vehicles, people, all were broken down by their powerful mandibles and digestive acids, converted into raw materials for their ever-growing hive. Commander Sun's footsteps echoed as she approached the command chair, her data pad clutched tightly against her chest. Admiral, I've just received word from Central Command. The Galactic Council is convening an emergency session. Another session. Day's bitter laugh held no humor. What good will that do? We've thrown everything we have at these monsters. Our most advanced energy weapons barely scratch their armor. Our shields can't stand up to their acid attacks. Even our best tactical AIs can't predict their movement patterns. This time it's different. Sun continued. They're considering bringing in help from outside the Alliance. That caught Day's attention. The Galactic Alliance had stood for over 10,000 years, comprising the most advanced civilizations in known space. The idea that they would seek help from outsiders was unprecedented. Who? He asked, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew. The humans, Sun confirmed. From the spiral arm. Day scoffed, turning back to watch another building collapse under the Krivik's assault. Humans. They're barely more than primitives. They only achieved faster than light travel 50 years ago. Their ships are slow, their weapons are crude, and their technology is centuries behind ours. What could they possibly offer against an enemy that our most advanced civilizations can't defeat? The Council seems to think they have something we don't. Sun replied carefully. Something that might give us an edge. Before Dai could respond, the bridge erupted in activity. Sir, Lieutenant Han's voice was sharp with alarm. Multiple Krivik ships breaking formation. They're heading directly for the civilian evacuation corridors. Daz's fingers flew across his chair's control panel. All ships, defensive formation Delta. Protect those evacuees. He watched helplessly as the red dots representing Krivik's vessels moved with terrible purpose toward the civilian ships trying to flee the colony. The Alliance fleet responded immediately, but Dad knew it wouldn't be enough. The Kriviks would break through, just as they always did. They would consume the evacuation ships just as they had consumed everything else they encountered in their relentless advance across the galaxy. As he watched another world die, Admiral Dai couldn't help but wonder what the Council saw in these humans. What secret weapon could such a young species possess that might turn the tide of this seemingly hopeless war? Whatever it was, he hoped they would bring it soon, because at the rate the Kriviks were advancing, there wouldn't be much of a galaxy left to save. The last transmission from Colony Beta 7 cut off mid-scream, and another red light went dark on the galactic map. In the silence that followed, Commander Sun's words hung in the air like a prayer. The Council meets in 1 hour. Maybe this time, things will be different. Admiral Day said nothing. He had stopped believing in miracles 2 years ago. But as he studied the tactical display showing the Krivix's inexorable advance toward the next inhabited system, he found himself hoping that maybe, just maybe, these humans would prove him wrong. The Grand Council chambers of the Galactic Alliance stretched high into the artificial sky of Central Station, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. Today, every seat in the circular chamber was filled, with representatives from over 300 advanced civilizations packed shoulder to shoulder, or in some cases, tentacle to tentacle. Ambassador G smoothed her formal robes as she waited by the entrance. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on her shoulders. After 2 years of watching worlds fall to the Krivix, the Alliance was desperate enough to try anything, even listening to the newest and most primitive members of galactic society. The human beside her, Ambassador Lee, showed none of her nervousness. Though he barely reached the shoulder height of most alien species present, he carried himself with the quiet assurance of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Jay had worked with him for 6 months now, and still couldn't decide if his confidence was admirable or foolish. "Are you ready?" she asked softly in perfect English, a courtesy to her human counterpart. Lee smiled, patting the small device in his pocket. "Trust me, Ambassador. Sometimes the best answers are the ones right in front of us." The chamber's central platform activated, lifting them slowly into view of the assembled council. The murmuring of hundreds of conversations died down as Chief Counselor Kyung, a tall, elegant figure with silver-scaled skin, rose to address the gathering. "We are here today," Kyung's voice resonated through the chamber, "to address the greatest threat our civilization has ever faced. The Krivix advance continues unchecked. Yesterday we lost Colony Beta 7. A collective shudder ran through the audience. Today we open our floor to our newest members. The humans claim to have a solution we haven't considered." Jai could feel the skepticism radiating from the assembled representatives. Many were already shifting restlessly, clearly viewing this as a waste of precious time. She saw Admiral Dai in the military section, his expression making it clear he expected nothing from this presentation. Lee stepped forward, his steps measured and calm. "Honored members of the Council, my people may be new to the stars, but we are not new to survival. For thousands of years, we have lived on a world that constantly challenged us, forced us to adapt, to think differently." "Ambassador," Kyung interrupted, leaning forward with barely concealed impatience, "with all due respect, we need military solutions. The Krivix are consuming entire worlds. They've already. Have you considered," Lee cut in smoothly, pulling out his device, "that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective?" He activated it, and a hologram bloomed in the center of the chamber. The images that appeared drew gasps from the assembly. Earth animals moved across the air, cats stalking through tall grass, dogs tracking prey through forests, birds soaring through clouds, and many others. Each animal was shown in its natural habitat, demonstrating their unique abilities and behaviors. "On Earth," Lee continued, his voice taking on a teacher's patient tone, "we learned early that we didn't have to face every challenge alone. We formed partnerships with other species. We learned from them. We evolved together." He gestured to a hologram of a police dog taking down a criminal. "Some species can smell things we can't detect with our most advanced technology." The image shifted to a therapy cat helping a patient. "Others have abilities to sense and influence emotional states in ways we're only beginning to understand." A delegate from the Science Council stood up. "This is fascinating xenobiology, Ambassador, but how does it help us against the Krivix?" Lee's smile widened slightly. "Because, honored delegate, we've noticed something interesting about the Krivix. Their biological structure, their social organization, their hunting patterns, They remind us of something we've dealt with for millennia on Earth, something our partners have helped us control and manage since before we built our first cities. He touched his device again, and the hologram changed to show a microscopic view of a Krivix drone's cellular structure. Beside it appeared the cellular structure of an Earth insect. The similarity was striking. The chamber erupted in excited whispers. Ambassador G watched as understanding began to dawn on faces around the room. Even Admiral Dai had leaned forward in his seat. "You're suggesting," Kyung said slowly, "that we might learn from Earth's experience with similar species." "I'm suggesting," Lee replied, "that we might have already developed the perfect countermeasure to the Krivix thousands of years ago. We just need to adapt it to a larger scale." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of key delegates. "And I'm suggesting that the solution to your problem might be as simple as introducing the Krivix to humanity's oldest and most trusted allies." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. G watched as hope, the first real hope she'd seen in 2 years, began to spread through the assembly. They had expected weapons, strategies, or advanced technology. Instead, they were being offered something far more intriguing, a new way of thinking about the problem. And looking at the faces around her, G realized that for the first time since the Krivix appeared, the Galactic Alliance was truly ready to listen to what humanity had to say. The pristine white walls of Laboratory 7 hummed with the soft sounds of advanced equipment. Dr. Song had spent countless hours in this space, studying various alien species, but today was different. Today, they had a live Krivix drone, the first one ever captured intact. The containment chamber dominated the center of the lab, its force fields casting a pale blue glow over the equipment. Inside, the Krivix drone lay strapped to an examination table, its 6 limbs secured with energy restraints. The creature's chitness armor gleamed under the bright lights, its compound eyes reflecting the movement of the scientists around it. Dr. Song's cat, Luna, had been a constant presence in the lab for years. The security board had tried to make her remove the cat, but Song had argued successfully that Luna's presence helped her think better. Now, as she prepared the neural scanning equipment, Luna lounged on her usual spot atop a monitoring station. "Recording begins at 15:30 station time." Song spoke into her recorder. "Subject is a Class 3 Krivix drone, approximately 2 meters in length. Initial scans show normal biological functions for the species." Dr. Park worked at a nearby console, calibrating the sensitive equipment they would use to study the creature's neural patterns. The capture of this specimen had cost 17 lives, and they couldn't waste this opportunity. Then everything changed. Luna's ears suddenly perked up. The cat's lazy posture vanished as she rose to her feet, tail straight and alert. Before anyone could react, she had leaped down from her perch and approached the containment field. The effect on the Krivix was immediate and dramatic. The drone's body began trembling violently. Its mandibles clicked rapidly, producing a sound they had never heard before. The monitoring equipment erupted with alerts as the creature's biological readings went haywire. "Look at these readings." Dr. Song rushed to her console, her fingers flying over the controls. "The neural patterns. I've never seen anything like this. The stress indicators are off the scale." Park moved to another station, his eyes wide as he studied the data streaming across his screen. "The pheromone output has completely changed. These are patterns we've never observed before." He looked at the Krivix, then at Luna, who had sat down to calmly wash her paw as if nothing unusual was happening. It's like their entire biological system is reacting to fear, pure, primal fear. But why? Song wondered aloud, recording every measurement she could. The cat isn't even doing anything threatening. She's just existing. "Maybe that's enough," Park muttered, his mind racing with possibilities. "Remember Ambassador Lee's presentation to the Council about the similarities between Krivix cellular structure and Earth insects?" Song's eyes lit up with understanding. "You think there's an evolutionary memory at play? Some kind of instinctive response? Only one way to find out." Park moved to the communication panel. This is Dr. Park in Lab 7. I need all available Earth animals brought to the containment level immediately, and get me access to the historical database of Earth predator-prey relationships. The next 6 hours were a blur of activity. They brought in dogs, more cats, ferrets, and even a trained hawk. Each animal was carefully introduced to the area around the containment field, and each produced similar results. The Krivix drone's reactions varied in intensity, but the pattern was clear. The presence of Earth's predatory species triggered something deep and primal in its biology. It's not just a simple fear response. Song explained to the gathering of scientists and military officers that had assembled to witness the tests. These reactions are hardwired into their very being. Look at these neural patterns. They're identical to what we see in Earth insects when they encounter their natural predators. But the Krivix are supposed to be the galaxy's apex predators. Admiral Daz spoke from the observation deck. How can they be so affected by simple house pets? Park stepped forward, bringing up a complex display of biological data. Because they're not really apex predators, sir. They're swarm insects that grew large and developed technology. But at their core, in their basic biology, they still carried the same instincts that kept their ancestors alive millions of years ago. And those instincts are screaming at them to flee from Earth's predators. Can it be weaponized? Someone asked from the back of the room. Song and Park exchanged glances. With proper research and development, Song answered carefully, we might be able to create something unprecedented. Not just a weapon, but a whole new way of fighting the Krivix. One they literally cannot overcome because it's built into their genetic code. As if to emphasize her point, Luna chose that moment to stretch and yawn. The Krivix drone's readings spiked again, its trembling visible to everyone in the room. Send everything to Central Command, Admiral Dai ordered. And get me Ambassador Lee. I think it's time we had a serious discussion about humanity's pets. In her containment field, the Krivix drone continued to shiver, its biological systems overwhelmed by the presence of creatures that its deepest instincts recognized as the ultimate predators. And Luna, having finished her grooming, simply curled up for a nap, unaware that she had just helped discover the key to saving the galaxy. The massive observation window of Training Facility Alpha offered a breathtaking view of Earth below, its blue-green surface partially hidden behind wispy white clouds. But Captain Yoon wasn't looking at her home planet. Her attention was fixed on the remarkable scene unfolding in the zero-gravity chamber before her. A German shepherd named Max floated gracefully through the chamber, his specialized space suit glowing softly in the artificial light. The dog showed no signs of distress or disorientation as he navigated the weightless environment, following hand signals from his handler with perfect precision. In another section of the chamber, a sleek black cat named Shadow demonstrated equally impressive adaptation to zero-gravity conditions. The cat used its suit's micro-thrusters with natural grace, as if it had been born to space. It's incredible, Trainer Kim said, checking the readings on his tablet. 3 months ago, we weren't sure if Earth animals could even survive in space. Now look at them. Yoon nodded, watching as more animals went through their training exercises. Dogs of various breeds, cats, and even a few specially selected ferrets, all wearing custom-designed spacesuits that protected them while allowing full range of movement. Show me the latest test results, she requested, turning away from the window. Kim brought up a holographic display. The hunting instincts are completely unchanged by the space environment. In fact, some abilities seem enhanced. He pointed to a graph showing detection ranges. The dogs can pick up Krivix pheromone trails from 3 sectors away. That's further than our best detection equipment. A commotion in the chamber drew their attention. A training drone programmed to emit Krivix signatures had been released. The reaction was immediate. 3 dogs immediately oriented toward it, while nearby cats displayed hunting postures despite the zero-gravity environment. And what about the psychological effect? Yoon asked, watching the animals track the drone. Even better than we hoped. Kim switched to another display. When we expose captured Krivix to our trained animals, they don't just show fear. They experience complete psychological breakdown. Their hive mind communication becomes disrupted. Their attack coordination falls apart. He smiled slightly. Last simulation showed 98% effectiveness. The Krivix don't retreat. They flee in absolute terror. The observation deck's door slid open, and Admiral Da walked in. The animal's handlers snapped to attention, but the Admiral waved them back to their duties. How soon can they be deployed? He asked without preamble. The first unit is ready now, Yoon replied. 200 dogs, 150 cats, all fully trained and equipped. The second unit will be ready in 2 weeks. Day watched as Max successfully completed a complex maneuver, using his suit's thrusters to change direction in pursuit of the training drone. And the protective suits. They'll hold up in combat. Better than our own space armor, Kim answered proudly. The suits are equipped with advanced shields, emergency life support, and neural interfaces that allow the animals to operate their thrusters instinctively. We've even installed emergency recall systems in case anything goes wrong. A small tabby cat drifted past the window, its suit's heads-up display glowing as it practiced target acquisition. The sight would have been comical if not for the deadly serious purpose behind the training. There's something else you should see, Yoon said, leading them to another observation window. This one looked into a massive chamber where dozens of animals were going through group exercises. We've discovered they can work together in ways we never expected. The dogs herd the Krivix toward the cats cause panic and disruption, and smaller animals like ferrets can infiltrate Krivix ships through maintenance ducts. It's like they instinctively understand their roles in the operation, Kim added. We're not just training individual animals, we're creating coordinated units. Admiral Da watched the exercises in silence for a long moment. To think, he finally said, after all our advanced weapons, all our sophisticated technology, the key to defeating the Krivix was in our homes all along. A warning buzzer sounded, and red lights flashed in the training chamber. Another exercise was about to begin, this one simulating actual combat conditions. The animals quickly moved into formation, their movements precise and purposeful. The Krivix think they're the galaxy's ultimate predators, Yoon said quietly. They're about to learn differently. Earth's animals have been hunting their kind for millions of years. Those instincts don't just disappear. As if to emphasize her point, the chamber erupted into action. Dogs, cats, and other animals moved in perfect coordination, neutralizing training drones with efficiency that would have impressed any military commander. Operation Companion is ready for deployment, Yoon declared formally. Permission to begin active operations. Admiral Day nodded slowly, still watching the training exercise. Permission granted. Let's show the galaxy what Earth's oldest friends can do. In the chamber, Earth's first space combat animals continued their preparation for war, their movements graceful and deadly in the weightless environment. Soon, they would face real enemies, bringing millions of years of evolutionary advantage to bear against the terror that had threatened the galaxy. And in their pressurized suits, tails swishing and ears alert, humanity's companions prepared to make history. The massive observation deck of Proxima Station offered a clear view of the approaching disaster. Colonel Ba stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching as thousands of Krivix ships emerged from hyperspace. Their biomechanical vessels looked like giant metallic insects, darkness spilling from their ranks like a cloud of locusts against the stars. Multiple contact signals, Lieutenant Yun reported from his station. Initial count shows over 3,000 Krivix vessels. They're forming attack patterns. Bai allowed herself a small smile. Let them come closer. Status of Operation Companion Units. All pods ready for launch, Colonel. 200 units in the first wave, 300 in reserve. The Krivix fleet drew closer, their formation spreading out to surround the station. They had seen this pattern before. The insects would encircle their prey, cutting off all escape routes before moving in for the kill. But today would be different. Launch first wave. Bai ordered calmly. The station shuddered slightly as hundreds of specialized pods ejected from various launch bays. Each pod carried a single passenger, a dog or cat in advanced combat armor, trained for this exact moment. Through the viewing window, Bai watched the pods spread out, their occupants already tracking their targets. The dog's enhanced sensory systems could detect Krivik's pheromone trails across vast distances, while the cat's mere presence was about to trigger something the enemy never expected. The first signs of disruption appeared almost immediately. A group of Krivik ships near the edge of their formation began moving erratically, breaking their perfect attack pattern. Then more ships started showing similar behavior, their movements becoming increasingly chaotic. "Ma'am," Yun's voice was filled with disbelief. The Krivik's fleet. They're scattering. The sight was incredible. The mighty Krivik's armada, terror of the galaxy, was breaking apart. Ships collided with each other in their panic to escape, while others simply fled in random directions. "Send in the second wave," Ba commanded. "Release the cats." More pods launched from the station. These contained the cats, whose effect on the Kriviks was even more dramatic. Entire sections of the enemy fleet completely lost cohesion, their ships flying in blind panic. In her combat suit, a black cat named Luna gracefully maneuvered through space, causing nearby Krivik's vessels to veer away in terror. A German shepherd called Max led a pack of dogs in pursuit of fleeing ships, their precise movements herding the enemy into chaos. "It's working exactly as Dr. Song predicted," Bai murmured, watching the battle unfold. "Their evolutionary memory is completely overwhelming their combat programming." Back in the Central Science Facility, Dr. Song and Dr. Park were presenting their findings to an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The chamber was packed with representatives eager to understand this unprecedented victory. "The key lies in their evolutionary history," Dr. Song explained, displaying complex biological data. "The Kriviks evolved from creatures remarkably similar to Earth's insects. When they encounter our pets, it triggers the same fear response their ancestors developed millions of years ago while avoiding predators." Dr. Park stepped forward, adding to the explanation. "Their entire neural network becomes compromised by this instinctive terror. Even their highly advanced hive mind can't overcome it. It's too deeply encoded in their DNA." Back at Proxima Station, the battle, if it could even be called that, was reaching its conclusion. Not a single shot had been fired, yet the mighty Krivik's fleet was in full retreat. The few ships that remained were being methodically herded away by the space-suited dogs, while cats patrolled the perimeter, ensuring no enemy vessel could regroup. "Status report," Bay requested, still watching the remarkable scene. "Complete victory, Colonel," Yun replied, his voice full of wonder. "The Krivik's fleet is in full retreat. No casualties on our side. All companion units reporting successful operations." As the last enemy ships disappeared into hyperspace, Bai allowed herself to relax slightly. "Send word to Central Command. Operation Companion is a complete success. And send extra treats to all our four-legged warriors. They've earned it." The news spread quickly across the galaxy. The invincible Kriviks, who had terrorized countless civilizations, had been driven away by Earth's pets. Videos of cats in combat armor gracefully floating through space, causing panic among the dreaded swarm, became instant classics. Stories of brave dogs tracking and herding enemy ships were told in bars across 1,000 worlds. But in the quiet moments after the battle, as Colonel Bai watched the companion units returning to their pods, she reflected on the irony of it all. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy have been saved by humanity's oldest friends, the animals they had shared their homes with for thousands of years. In her combat pod, Luna settled down for a well-deserved nap, unaware that she had just helped write a new chapter in galactic history. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the mighty Krivik's flood, their empire crumbling before the ancient instincts they couldn't overcome. The Grand Council chamber buzzed with excited conversation as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for this historic session. The victory at Proxima Station had changed everything, and now they all wanted answers. How had simple Earth pets accomplished what the most advanced weapons in the galaxy could not? Dr. Song stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing complex biological data. Beside her, Dr. Park operated the controls, bringing up detailed images of Krivik's cellular structure alongside Earth insect biology. "What you're seeing here," Dr. Song began, gesturing to the floating images, "is the key to understanding our victory. The Kriviks, for all their advanced technology and apparent evolution, remain fundamentally similar to Earth's insects at their biological core." A murmur ran through the assembled crowd. Many leaned forward in their seats, their multiple eyes or sensory organs fixed on the displays. "We've analyzed thousands of samples from captured Krivik's drones," Dr. Park added, zooming in on specific cellular structures. "Their neural pathways, their basic instincts, even their chemical responses, they all match patterns we've seen in Earth insects for centuries." Admiral Da, sitting in the front row, raised his hand. "But how does this explain their reaction to Earth's pets? The Kriviks have faced countless predatory species across the galaxy without showing such fear." Dr. Song smiled, pressing a control that brought up new images. Cats stalking through tall grass, dogs pursuing prey, even small ferrets hunting in burrows. "The key isn't just that Earth's pets are predators. It's that they're the right kind of predators. Their hunting patterns, their movements, even their body language. They're perfectly matched to trigger the Kriviks' deepest survival instincts." "Think of it this way," Dr. Park continued, displaying neural scans from a captured Krivik's drone. "When a cat approaches a Krivik's warrior, that warrior's conscious mind knows it's inside an advanced battle suit with powerful weapons. But its unconscious mind, the part that's remained unchanged for millions of years, sees death approaching in exactly the form its ancestors learned to fear." The holographic display shifted to show footage from the Battle of Proxima Station. The council watched in amazement as the mighty Krivik's fleet broke apart at the mere presence of space-suited cats and dogs. "Their evolutionary memory," Dr. Song explained, pointing to specific neural patterns, "is so deeply encoded that it overrides everything else. When our pets appear, the Kriviks don't experience simple fear. They experience absolute, primal terror, the same terror their ancestors felt millions of years ago when avoiding predators on their homeworld." A science delegate from the outer system stood up. "But the Kriviks have a hive mind. Surely their collective consciousness could overcome this instinctive response." Dr. Park shook his head. "That's what makes this even more remarkable. Their entire neural network becomes compromised by this instinctive terror. The hive mind actually works against them in this case. When one Kriviks experiences this panic, it spreads through their entire network, amplifying the fear response exponentially." The chamber erupted in excited discussion. Dr. Song waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "We've essentially discovered their evolutionary Achilles heel," she said. "The Kriviks spent millions of years evolving technology, weapons, and their hive mind. But they never evolved past their basic insect nature. They can't overcome this response any more than humans can overcome their instinct to breathe. And this is why the companion program works so perfectly," Dr. Park added. "Earth's pets don't just scare the Kriviks. They represent an existential threat encoded in their very DNA. Their presence disrupts the Kriviks' ability to think, to coordinate, even to fight back." As if to emphasize their point, they played more footage from various battles. Cats in combat armor gracefully patrolling space stations, causing entire Krivik squadrons to flee in panic. Dogs tracking and herding enemy ships with incredible precision, their ancient hunting instincts proving just as effective in space as they had been on Earth. In the end, Dr. Song concluded, the Kriviks' greatest strength became their greatest weakness. Their hive mind, which made them such effective conquerors, now spreads panic through their entire species at the mere presence of Earth's pets. They literally cannot overcome this fear. It's written into every cell of their being. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had found not just a weapon against the Kriviks, but a fundamental weakness that the enemy could never adapt to or overcome. Admiral Dai stood up slowly. "You're telling us that the most terrifying force in the galaxy is afraid of cats and dogs?" Dr. Song and Dr. Park exchanged glances. "Not just afraid, Admiral," Dr. Park replied. "Terrified to their very core. And that terror might just save the galaxy." In the silence that followed, a small hologram showed a cat in combat armor floating peacefully through space, unaware that it represented the greatest hope for galactic peace in a generation. The Grand Hall of Unity on Central Station glowed with soft golden light, its crystalline walls reflecting the faces of thousands of gathered dignitaries from across the galaxy. 5 years had passed since the turning point of the Kriviks' War, and the celebration today marked not just a victory, but a complete transformation of galactic society. Ambassador Lee adjusted his formal dress uniform as he prepared to approach the podium. Beside him, Max the German Shepherd and Luna, the black cat, sat perfectly composed in their ceremonial space armor, the metal gleaming with special insignias marking them as veterans of the final battles. In the audience, beings from hundreds of different species sat together, their previous rivalries forgotten in the face of what they had achieved together. Even the architecture of the hall had changed. Special platforms and resting areas had been installed to accommodate Earth's companion animals, who were now a common sight throughout the galaxy. Today, the council speaker announced, "We gather to present the highest honor our civilization can bestow, the Galactic Peace Medal, awarded to Earth and its remarkable companions, who showed us that the greatest power can come from the most unexpected places." As Lee walked to the podium, Luna and Max following with perfect dignity, he caught glimpses of other companion animals throughout the hall. Cats in diplomatic attire lounged on special observation platforms, while dogs in formal gear sat alertly beside their handlers. Some even wore translation devices, allowing them to communicate simple concepts to alien species. From his position near the front, Admiral Dai, now Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, watched with a smile. Beside him, Captain Yoon sat with her own companion, a space-trained cat named Shadow who had personally participated in 23 successful missions. "Who would have thought?" Da mused quietly to Yoon. "The greatest predatory force in the galaxy, defeated by house pets. Sometimes I still can't believe it." "Not just pets," Yoon corrected gently, reaching down to scratch behind Shadow's ears. "Partners. Friends. The Kriviks never stood a chance against that kind of bond." Lee reached the podium, Max and Luna taking their positions on special platforms beside him. The medals would be awarded to all three of them, a first in galactic history. 5 years ago, Lee began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. Humanity was the newest and least advanced member of this alliance. We had little to offer in terms of technology or military might, but we had something far more valuable: thousands of years of partnership with other species. He gestured to his companions. "These friends taught us that true strength doesn't always come from weapons or technology. Sometimes it comes from understanding, from cooperation, from bonds formed over millennia of living and working together." The hall erupted in approval. The sight of Earth's pets had become synonymous with peace throughout the galaxy. Space stations now maintained special companion animal divisions, their presence enough to deter any remaining Kriviks activity. Trading posts and diplomatic centers had areas specifically designed for cats and dogs, their calming presence helping to ease tensions between different species. As the ceremony continued, stories were shared of specific animals and their achievements. The cat who single-handedly protected a colony ship by simply sitting in the observation deck. The dog team that tracked a hidden Krivik's nest through 3 sectors of space. The small group of pets whose presence had caused an entire Krivik's fleet to surrender without firing a shot. "We look forward," Lee concluded, "to continuing these partnerships, both with our companion animals and with all the species of the galaxy." Together, we've proven that peace doesn't always require force. Sometimes it just needs a friend with 4 legs and a brave heart. As the medals were placed around their necks, Max and Luna maintained their dignified pose, though Luna did permit herself a small purr of satisfaction. They had become symbols of a new era in galactic history, where the bond between species proved stronger than any weapon. Later, at the celebration reception, Admiral Dai watched as aliens of all kinds interacted with Earth's pets, many forming their own bonds of friendship. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Space stations now echoed with the sound of barking and mewing. Ships carried special pet quarters, and diplomatic meetings often included a cat curled up in the corner or a dog keeping watch. The Kriviks taught us something important, Yoon reflected, watching shadow play with a young alien child. Sometimes the greatest power isn't in strength or technology. It's in friendship, in understanding, in bonds that cross the boundaries of species. And throughout the galaxy, on countless worlds and stations, humanity's oldest friends continued their new role as guardians of galactic peace, one purr and tail wag at a time.